How many racks do you guys have now?
We have 8 combos and 3 deadlift platforms. And then,
Do you still have the combo set up where like some of them are set for benches and some of them are set for squats?
yeah, so 4 racks are dedicated to squat, four racks are dedicated to bench, but one of the racks on either end is adjustable, not adjustable, they're all obviously adjustable, but is like flexible to swap. So for example, like when we have like our squat, like Mondays are typically squat program days. So like when there's more people squatting, we can have 5 squat racks and 3 benches to accommodate the fact that more people are squatting at the same time, which makes it way easier because that one extra rack just means you're more likely to find something that's the same rack height or the same weight as you. And like less people are benching anyway, so it kind of works out.
Do you ever run into situations where like you don't have enough space?
Never.
You don't have enough racks?
It's never happened.
Really?
Yeah, we pretty much have like a bit of a policy that's like there's always a way to work in.
Of course.
And because we're always staffed, it's like, let's say someone's warming up and they're kind of not sure. They just come to one of the coaches like, hey, I want to squat. I don't know where to go. You can always work someone in. Like,
yeah, you just go, oi, mate,
you need to work
get
into
this
that
guy in. He's going to do 80 next, bang.
Yeah,
In you
exactly.
go,
It's like, or someone just squatted 70, for example. And I'd be like, to the guy, like, let's say you've just squatted 70. Like, what are you going up to today? Like 180. I'm like, cool. Can you go do your next one with 120 with that guy? Because he's got 100 on the bar.
Yeah.
We're taking this rack. And then you can work your way around. Okay, cool. So like, realistically, if you got 5 racks, let's say you only had blues, you could easily have, like, not necessarily designated station, but you could easily have a 60, 100, 140, 180, 220. You're always going to be within range of somebody.
Yes.
And anybody that's within range should always be sharing. So the hardest, like, honestly, like, ironically, the hardest situations are just like when I'm training, if I'm training at a busy time, which I try not to, because I'm like obnoxiously short and obnoxiously strong. So it's like I'm squatting like 220 out of rack height 8. Like nobody shares with me because the only other people squatting 220 are like on rack height 15 or rack height 18.
Yeah.
So it's like quite awkward to share with me. So I personally just avoid squatting specifically when it's busy because like I'm just really in the way.
So you don't get spotters.
What's that?
So you don't get spotters.
No, I don't get spotters. I just got to train at awkward times. I'm the guy that I hate in my own gym. Yeah, that's difficult to work in.
That's kind of annoying. It's funny. I was asking you to send me a photo for this podcast to put on my story because we didn't have any topics to talk about, and I was like, no, I'll just get people to send me topics. And I'm like, JP, can you send me a photo? And he goes, just Google JP Cauchi powerlifting. I'm like, bro,
did you?
No, of course I didn't. You sent me a photo. I Googled it. Were there good photos on there?
Nah, there's a few.
That's like, you're not an arrogant guy, but that's the most arrogant thing that I've ever seen you do.
I was being a smartest, but I was also hoping you'd be more resourceful. So like for all the thumbnails I've made for Team Champ stuff, I just Google people's names. I just Google like...
The thing is, I usually ask people because they send me photos that they like of themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I have a representation of themselves that they want
that suits their image. Yeah, I understand.
You know what I mean?
What can I say? There's a lot of photos of me on the internet, so you can...
Well, I actually did go on your Facebook and there was like one of you squatting like
that's a bad place to find
207
photos.
or something. I was like, that's not impressive enough.
No. That's not even me anymore. That's like a different version of me. Smaller, weaker
I
version.
start every podcast with a new guest asking them about like how they got into physical culture.
Right.
Do you remember your first interaction with like the physical culture space, like the sort of strength training side of it?
I do. I guess like the way I started was... I don't remember what interested me. Actually, I do remember what interested me. What interested me was performance because I was doing athletics, like as a kid, like little athletics. And so like I wanted to just run faster. And so like I just used my brain and was like, how do I run faster? Well, I need my legs to do more. So I Googled like leg exercises. And there used to be a website. It was called brainiamac.co.uk. If anybody remembers brainiamac.co.uk, shout out. And it was just a huge database of like articles. So like you'd go on the main page and it'd be like 1,000 links. And the links would be called things like 20-meter shuttle run test, 25-meter shuttle run test, 100-meter test. And it was because in alphabetical order. And then you get to like ab rollout, ab this, ab that. And then every exercise ever. And you'd click on the exercise or the workout or the test or whatever. And there'll be an article explaining how to do it. No videos and stuff because this was like 12 years ago, so maybe they just didn't have the infrastructure. But it would be like an article saying how to perform the thing, whatever. And so then there'd be sub-articles of like leg exercises. And it's like, okay, so I was like, okay, I need to do hamstring curls. So like I would literally just like strap bags to my ankles and try and do hamstring curls in my room.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sick.
And then I started playing footy and I was like, well, I'm so small, like Aussie rules football. And I was like, I'm small, I need to put on weight. So I was like, just did bicep curls and stuff. I remember doing like bicep curls with my school backpack and I'd weigh my school backpack, it'd be like 10 kilos full of textbooks. And I'd just do bicep curls until I failed. And then I thought, what happens if I took out some textbooks and kept going? It's like I invented drop sets to myself. So it's like, I've always been interested. Like, yeah, I guess I've always been interested and kind of, it's funny because, you know, when you talk to people who are in a certain career or whatever, you know, maybe someone's a runs a warehouse, or maybe somebody is a teacher or whatever, a policeman. And you kind of say like, did you always know you were going to do that? I didn't always know I was going to be a coach, but when I look back, I think there was obvious signs. Like I'm like, well, yeah, it was pretty obvious actually. Like I knew I was going to be in a physical world, or at least a training kind of world, a gym sort of world, because as young as 12 or 10, I was already looking up like how to run faster, how to get bigger, and doing those things. I remember there was a guy on YouTube. Again, this was a different world back then, but like he had like a 400 squat challenge. So the challenge was you got to squat your body weight 400 times. So I just did it. Like,
Body weight 400 times.
Just, no weight on your back. Just look, literally your own body weight.
Oh, okay.
So I just did it. Like I just did 400 squats. I had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, I just was always doing that stuff.
How did the like exercising for athletics and then footy turn into wanting to do powerlifting then?
I mean, when I was a later teenager, like when I was like 17, 18, that's when I actually joined a gym. So like I had a little home gym at home. It was like the classic like 10 kilo bar. And then like the heaviest plates I owned were 7.5 kilo plates. And so I was training in my own garage, and I say training with quotation marks because it wasn't anything what you'd call today, but it kind of like something that resembled that. And then when I got old enough, I was like, well, now I'm going to join a gym and actually train properly. And I was just training in the gym, just doing normal like strength stuff. The funny thing is most people start going to the gym doing bodybuilding, right? Like almost everybody you meet is like, oh, I was dabbling in bodybuilding stuff and trying to get big. And then I was like, well, maybe I should do the strength stuff. And whereas I was like, not the reverse, but it just didn't happen. Like I never was particularly interested in bodybuilding. I was just like...
That's evident in the physique.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, like I wish I started with a bit more bodybuilding, but hold on, I'm just going to wheeze. But yeah, like even as an 18-year-old, I joined the gym and I was like, cool, doing like 5-3-1. Like I just started doing strength stuff, and I was doing that concurrently with football. And then I just realized, I mean, long story short, I just realized I was better at lifting weights than I was at running around on a field. And so I decided to give football a break for a year. And I said, I'm just going to go all in on lifting and see how I like it. And then I just never went back. Like I said to myself at the start, I might go back if I don't like it, but obviously I never went back.
And why did you choose powerlifting instead of weightlifting then?
That's a good question. I think it was just more accessible. Like I was lifting weights in the gym, and like part of my quote unquote program was things like deadlifts. I think I was doing like cleans and stuff, but like obviously very badly. But I was competent enough at squat, bench, deadlift that I forget how I found the first competition. Maybe I was just, obviously surfing the web, found a meet, and I thought I'd just do that. Like it was just, I think it was purely accessibility. Like I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I could do a squat. I knew I could do a bench press, and I knew I could do a deadlift. So that's what I just did.
So you signed up for a meet. Did you like read the rule book, or you just turn up kind of blind?
Mostly blind, but I would say more prepared than most people would describe being blind. Like I remember like 3 weeks out reading reading the rule book, I suppose, saying your feet have to be flat. And like, when you talk to a beginner and you ask them a question about their lifting and they don't know the answer, like let's say you say to a beginner, it's like, where do you put your hands on bench press? How wide do you go? And they're like, oh, I don't know, like about here. Like they don't even know. That was what happened to me. I was like, do I bench with my feet flat or with my feet on my toes? I had to go back and watch a video. I was like, oh my God, I bench on my toes. Like I've got 3 weeks to figure out how to bench with my feet flat. So mostly blind, but with a little bit of like self-understanding. But yeah, nobody there to guide me. I just literally walked in and was like, where do I stand? How do I do this? When do I go? And how do I do this?
And what were your numbers at your first comp?
I weighed 64.3 and I squatted 165, third attempt, benched 75, opener, 1 out of 3, deadlifted 190, second attempt, failed 215. The old 25 kilo jump, classic.
What kind of decision, what kind of thought went into that decision? Like 190 was, what did you do in training before that?
I think my best was 200. I think the plan was to go 175, 185, 195. And I did 175 easy. I was like, fuck it, let's just go 190. And I did 190. And then I thought, okay, I'll do, what did I just say to myself? 200, I suppose. And someone said, look, the national record's like 210. I was like, fuck it, go 215. Yeah, I don't know what was going on, man.
That's hilarious. So,
I clearly failed, by the way.
A few years after that. So your first meet was what, 2012?
Feb 2013.
2013.
Yeah.
And then what, a year and a half later, you're junior national champion? World champion? World champion?
Yeah, a year and a half later, I won Worlds. Yeah, so that year I went to, like the first year I went to Oceanias, the next year I went to Worlds in South Africa and I won. Yeah, back when the competition was a lot weaker, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, that was something that I wanted to ask you about. Like, when you are an early adopter of a sport that's quite niche, you like get in early and you almost like make a name for yourself when no one has. And that's definitely something that you took advantage of with your social media stuff and like YouTube and everything like that.
Mm.
Do you feel like that gave you like a huge leg up on everyone from like a business
Yeah,
point of
absolutely.
view?
Yeah, I think I'd be very disingenuous to pretend that, a kid nowadays, a 66 kilo kid nowadays totaling 500 or 550 or 550 would not command the same respect that I was able to garner at that time, because it was such a empty field. Obviously I won a Worlds with a total of 573. The guy that came second totaled like 535, I think. So I won by like 40 kilos. And so like that looks good on a resume type of deal. Was it 5? No, it was 593. Sorry, I totaled 593. But nevertheless, nowadays that kind of total is like, it's obviously still very good, but it's just like you'd come 8th at Worlds now, or like 6th or something. And so I was very lucky in that sense. Like I think I just got in at the right time. Like I went to the first ever Worlds, like the first Raw Worlds, I was there. The year before that, there was the Raw World Cup. So if you count the 2013 Worlds as the first Worlds, I was there. And this year is going to be like the 10th edition or the 9th edition. So I think jumping on at the right time was quite fortunate. And in terms of the business point of view, there was just no one in the online space as well. Like nobody was making YouTube videos, or like I said, the articles at the time were just random HTMLs that you just have to find. Nobody was explaining things in a detailed way. The way I learned things was reading bodybuilding.com articles. And I was like, well, I don't like writing as much as I like talking. So I'm just going to talk about things rather than write about them.
Yeah, you were, as far as I'm aware, like the first Australian powerlifter putting out YouTube content.
Yeah, there was like Johnny Candido at the time. And
yeah, Candido, like Omar Isuf, like a few others, but not really that competed in IPF. It was like there was a lot of like elite FTS, those dudes, Mark Ripto, like
Mark Bell was around.
Mark Bell, like the untested
Dave
side.
Tate, all that stuff.
Yeah. But there wasn't a lot from the IPF drug tested side, and then you kind of like came in and really, in particular in Australia, had like the monopoly over it.
Yeah, no, I did. Yeah,
and I remember when I met you for the first time, you were like, "Hey man, I'm John Paul," and I was like, "Hey, I'm Alex," and in my head, I'm like, "Fuck, I know who you are." I've watched like every one of your videos.
So you do know how to Google my name and find some photos of me then?
No videos. What gave you the confidence to put yourself out there when you were like still pretty new in the sport, and like how did you know that the information that you had was even good?
I didn't. I think it was just like honestly purely arrogance, and I think it was like I just Dunning-Krugered my way forward in my career, and I think it's it's a common sentiment that you might see online. I've seen phrases kind of like, "It's a shame that the most able people are the least confident," or that kind of sentiment. And it's like, this is how I feel now. It's like I feel like I know more about lifting and training and everything. Like I'm obviously the most, at this point in my life and my career, I'm the most knowledgeable I've ever been because I've accumulated more knowledge. Yet I feel actually way less confident now in my own ability than I did 10 years ago, because I was just like young and ignorant. So I don't think it was the fact that I knew what I was doing was right. It's just I thought I knew what I was doing was right. And I think in hindsight, I can recognize that in myself, and I can also recognize that in other people, and also give other people not a pass, but like there are some like old timers in whatever the industry is, whether it's lifting or whatever, who get a bit cranky at new kids coming through the sport and be like, "Oh, what's this kid think he knows what he's talking about?" It's like, yeah, because every young kid thought they knew what they were talking about, So,
they're also only doing the thing to try and help. Like,
yeah, it's coming from a good place.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're not trying to, like when I was making my content, I wasn't trying to get clout. I was just like going like, oh, if I can help someone, like, cool, that sounds good to me.
And also like you're trying to help people. You're not trying to like deliberately give them the wrong information or like deliberately, give them something
not
that's
malicious.
going to not help them. Like they're just doing the best they can with the information they have at that point in time. It's like, are you actually like more hesitant now to put out content than you were back then?
Yeah, because absolutely, I'm much more hesitant because I feel like the online space is so saturated, number one. Number two, I wouldn't say I doubt my own ability, but I always wonder if I'm going to look back and think what am I saying and doing now is just like wrong. Like I look back at the shit I used to say and do as being not necessarily wrong, but just like if my mind's going to change and stuff. And also, I just don't think it's helpful personally to put up content that says stuff that's already been said 100 times. Like, okay, like your grip on the bench press should be like this, and you should drive through your legs like this. Like one of my favorite compliments that I used to receive consistently, which I'm very proud to talk about or to share, is that I used to always get told, wow, your content's really unique. I've never heard anyone say that before, or I've never heard that perspective on this thing. And so like making a YouTube video or an Instagram reel or a YouTube short that says like, when you bench press, like retract your shoulders. It's like, yeah, well, no shit. Like everyone else says that. So that's why all the content that I tried to make was always like a unique perspective, like really unique cues that were like, not revolutionary, but just like different. And I feel like, not that I've run out of ideas, but it's kind of like, unless it's going to be like that, I feel like it's not worth making because everyone else is already doing that stuff anyway. And I would want to position myself to be more unique.
Do you look back on your content and like regret any of it?
No, actually, I think actually there's a lot of stuff I'm still happy with. Like I've got a lot of videos from like 6-7 years ago that I still use. I still send to clients and say like, go watch this video, it'll explain what I'm trying to explain.
The weight cutting one?
What's that?
The weight cutting one?
The weight cutting one, I still stand by, although my mind has changed on it. I still stand by the process, like it still works well. How I would recommend that to people changes though, clearly. Yeah.
I had a question in the question box asking you about your weight, like your worst weight cutting story. Do you have one you can share?
I have two I'll share quickly. Two. One was 2017 Nationals. 2017, yeah. I was supposed to be 74s, and I went to the sauna in the morning. I forget that it was at the expo, so it was like a big venue in the city, and the weigh-ins were, let's say for argument's sake, 10 a.m. or let's say 9 a.m. I think. Weigh-in starting at 9 a.m., finishing at 10:30 because it's an hour and a half weigh-in, and I've been in the sauna all morning, and I remember crying. The weigh-in started at 9, right? It's like 8:30. I'm at the sauna. I'm crying, going, I'm not going to make it. And I was like basically giving up. And Billy's kind of said, weigh-in start at 9, but they don't finish till 10:30. You've got time. And I was like, I can do it. And so I just sat in the sauna, and I did my push-ups, and I spat, and I did all this kind of stuff. And I got to the weigh-ins at 10:29 or 10:28. The referees are like waving their hands. Simon Bergner was coaching me that day, but he didn't come to the warm-ups, to my weight cut. He was just there at the venue. He's like, waved me in. I jump on the scale, 74.05. I look at the referees. They're like, you've got a minute. I jump outside. I'm in the bin spitting. Bergner's got his towel drying me off, drying me between my legs, drying every part of my body, trying to get any bit of sweat off. I'm spitting. Jump on the scale, 74.0. Like at the very last second. Like they were like, as I'm getting on the scale, they go, no more chances. This is the last one. And it was 74.00. I was like, unbelievable. Lifted like shit. The other one is the Uzbekistan story where I cut 5.5 kilos in 3 days. And was 66.00 just on time as well.
Yeah, that one was funny because you had to bribe the hotel person to turn the sauna on early enough.
Yeah, so they wouldn't turn it on.
So they turn it on at 6.
I forgot that. Yeah, that's such a good detail.
They turn it on at 6, right?
But Wayne's were
it took like an hour to warm up, right? Yeah. So you had to like bribe them.
Can we not use the word bribe? Can we just say like tip them?
You bribed them. You bribed them so they could turn the sauna on at like 4 so that you could get in at 5 or whatever. Yeah. And I remember Doug and Burke and I came in and out like to keep you company.
Like a ghost on
and Bergner sat in there with you the whole time, just kept you company.
Yeah, that was critical. I always say, like, if someone's coming to the sauna, you have to be accompanied.
The other one was the other part of that was that they put the scales on carpet.
Yeah.
And everyone was weighing in really, really light.
Yeah.
So like you made weight, but you didn't really make weight.
I made weight legally. So.
Well, yeah, you made weight legally, but like they fucked it up.
Yeah, potentially.
You got so lucky.
Yeah, just IPF things. No comment there.
Classic. I have a similar one with jumping on the scale just for 2017 in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Jumped on the scale, 83.2. My first attempt. I was like, fuck. Ran outside. It was in the middle of summer in Singapore. It was hot as fuck. So I was like, I'm just going to walk around the block a few times, towel myself off. Went in. I didn't like cut it as fine as you. I think I went in with like 30 minutes left in weigh-ins. Jumped on naked, 83.05.
Oh, like, so annoying.
Like,
it's like a technicality. You're there, but you're not there.
And then I was like, all right. I told the ref, like, all right, give me 2 seconds. Stepped off the scale, spat once in a bottle, got back on, 83.00.
Yeah, sometimes just the little shake of the scales as well. Like just tap it on the side.
That's right.
Unless you tap it, it's like 83.10. Oh, God.
Yeah, so good. Next topic I want to talk about is longevity in the sport. and this is something that we've spoken about like a lot in private, which I think is like a really good topic for people to hear about from two people who have been doing it for a long time. Hang on a sec, you might have to cut this out, Chris, because I can't read. Just because I made you edit last night at fucking 1 a.m.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Something that we always speak about is like how if you want to be the best lifter that you can be, you have to do it. You have to commit to it for like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think so many lifters struggle with this concept?
I think it's a number of things. I think it's because the focus on lifting is to get better rather than to have fun. And if you're not getting better, then you're not having fun, but you can have fun without getting better. If you look at any kind of like other recreational hobby, take it dance, let's say dancing, let's say playing indoor basketball, like pickup basketball or social basketball, for example, or any other social sport or whatever. Like you don't go to social basketball on a Tuesday night to get better. You go there to have fun. You have a good time with your mates and you just like whatever. And then one season you win the championship, the next season you come dead last, and it doesn't really matter. You're just there to have a good time. Whereas if you're doing powerlifting and you're not getting better, it feels so demotivating. Whereas, yeah, like with a social sport or a social hobby or a more recreational hobby, you can have fun without getting better. And sometimes, like let's say, using the social basketball as an example, there'll be weeks where you're like, man, I killed it today. I played so good. I was hitting, like all my shots, whatever. And other weeks where you're like, oh, that was crap. I played like crap. I felt so unfit, like whatever. You roll your eyes again. Whereas in lifting, if you go 6 months and don't hit a PR, you start to question like your whole life value. It's like, why? Like you're still, if you can enjoy that process and just enjoy going to the gym, hanging out with your mates, exercising, then like progress is good and that will come on its own. You can't force your way there. So I think that's like the biggest thing most people struggle with is like realizing that they don't actually have to force their way forward. And that if you're not getting better, that's still worth it. Like it's still fun. If it is worth it for you, like maybe it's not worth it for you. Maybe, I spoke about this on a different podcast once. It's like, if it's not worth it for you, that's fine too. Like you can stop, but don't stop just because you're not getting better. Like that's like not a very good excuse. Like if you're not having fun, that's not worth it then.
Yeah, I feel like when people start out, it's like very easy to progress and it's very rewarding, like straight off the bat.
Yeah, of course.
And then the longer you live, the harder it gets to make progress. And that's when people drop off, is when they run into any roadblock. It's
that's the most critical pop point. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if I haven't put, I put 50 kilos in my total, my first comp to second comp, and then I put 40, and then I put 30, and then I put 5. Oh, should I keep doing this? I only put 5 kilos in my total. What like advice would you give to someone at that point in time, like at that inflection point, to continue going? And like, let's consider this person is like someone who wants to be like a national champion, or someone who wants to be like truly good.
Well, I think there's a difference between wanting to get truly good and thinking that's what you want. Like when a 5-year-old says like, I don't want to eat my vegetables, I want to eat chocolate or whatever. And it's like, but do you actually know what you want? Like you're just a kid. Like you don't actually know what you want. Like you don't know what an 8-year-old says, I want to be an astronaut. I'm like, do you actually want to be an astronaut? Like, where did you come up with that idea? Like, you just made that up because you saw it on a cartoon or something. Like, that's not truly what you want. Maybe it is. And similarly, like, if a powerlifter with 18 months experience says they want to be a national champion, my first question is like, why? Do you actually want that? Because if you do, then like, I can help you get there. But are you just saying that because you feel like you're supposed to? Like, you just made that up? Like, just like an 8-year-old says, I want to be an astronaut. You've just made up, I want to be a national champion. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, that's just completely meaningless unless you've really thought about what that actually means.
So if you are someone who has truly thought about what that means, maybe you're at like the 3-year mark and, things are getting slower. Maybe you've got a few niggles that pop up, considering leaving the sport or doing something new. What advice would you give to that person?
Like, assuming you've cleared them of that first prerequisite, that they actually do want to get really good. I suppose, like, there's very little choice then. Like, you don't have a choice. You just have to keep going. And if you leave the sport, then you never wanted it actually in the first place. Like, you can't force or manufacture someone to want something that they don't actually want. Like, words only get you so far, but like, actions speak a lot louder than words. And so if you actually wanted it, you would just behave in that way, but you clearly don't want it. And that's okay too. Like, I would never shame someone for I don't shame people for quitting or for discontinuing coaching with me or discontinuing powerlifting. That's totally fine. Like, you're allowed to do whatever you want with your spare time, but you just have to be honest with yourself. And I think the biggest issue, honestly, is that people aren't honest with themselves and they think that they want things that they don't. So if someone, I mean, maybe to be a bit more direct to your actual question, like give the like listener more practical advice. You can take your foot off the gas without putting your foot on the brakes. You can say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit burnt out. Instead of training 5 days a week, I'm going to do 3 days a week for 3 months. And I'm going to put an end date on that. So let's say it's the end of January. You go, cool. I'm going to go 3 days a week until May. And then on May 1st, I'm going to reevaluate. I'm going to keep training 3 days a week consistently until May. And on May 1st, I'm going to reevaluate. How have I felt over the last few months? What did I use that spare time that I've just freed up for with? What am I doing with that time? If you're not going to the gym twice a week now, like, what are you doing with that spare time? And make a decision then. But I think making a decision in the pit of the stress is just not a good time to be making decisions. It's like probably the most practical advice is like, you can take your foot off the gas and not put on the foot on the brake. And you can like throttle your efforts. And maybe after that 3 months, you're revitalized and you're like, man, I miss training so much. I actually really want to get good now. And like, I'm motivated. And okay, cool. Let's go back to 4 or 5 days a week. Let's train hard again. It's probably not a bad 3 months anyway. You probably, recovered some niggles that you had and it was actually probably productive. Let's go for it. But if after 3 months you realize, actually, I've really enjoyed that free time and I don't want to train anymore, that's good too. But like, you've actually got a clearer answer.
Yeah, you've given yourself a chance to actually figure out what you want.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really underrated is like having periods of time where you're not actively trying to like really improve. Mm-hmm. You're almost just doing it for the enjoyment's sake and doing it to keep ticking the bare minimum boxes.
Yeah, I would say like probably half of my roster right now trains 3 days a week. And maybe,
really?
Yeah, I would say half train 3 day a week.
Interesting.
And maybe the other half trains 4 days a week. And I'd have like literally less than a handful of people training 5. Like,
yeah, I would say about 80% of mine do 4.
Yeah.
And maybe like 10% 3, 10% 5.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think I coach a lot more beginners nowadays though.
Yeah,
More competitive people.
Yeah. Something you said at the start there was really interesting to me was that there's almost this thought like, okay, well, if I'm training and my goal is to get better, but I'm doing all this training and I'm not getting better, is stopping going to make you better? It's like, that's the worst thing you can do, right? To make you better. It's like, you never know when the next peak's coming. Like oftentimes you plateau for like 5-6 months, even like a year. Like you and I have both had periods of time where we've had a lift stall for like 2-3 years.
And then on the other side of it, you get a 15 kilo PB.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't really explain when it's coming. You can't really explain why it's come. It just happens with all that training behind you. So it's almost like you have to just at certain points in time be stubborn enough to just keep going.
Yeah.
And just like keep enduring the periods of time that actually kind of suck.
Yeah, it's like you said, stopping is the worst thing you can do for that goal of yours. If your goal is truly be the best, then stopping is not going to help you. Maybe for 2 weeks, like if you wanted a real break, sure. But like an extended period, like that's not going to help you achieve your goal. So like that's why I would question someone and say, is it actually your goal? Because it doesn't sound like it. Like you're not behaving that way. So.
Yeah. Like doing training is the most stimulative thing you can do to get stronger. It's like you need to train.
Yeah, it's the most helpful thing towards becoming a national champion.
Yeah, that's right. So like not training is literally the absolute opposite of that.
Yeah. What's that? You're sleeping 8 hours a day and getting in 250 grams of protein a day, but you're not training? Well, that's not helping,
You're
mate.
not training. Yeah. Fucking hell. Something you've said to me like a whole bunch of times when we reflect on like our journey from where we started. And you and I started at pretty similar times. I think you started like 18 months before me. Is that like we may think that we've been doing this for a while, but we're actually still babies. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, look at any other career, and anybody that's been doing it for as long as we have is a complete newbie. Like I've got friends that are doctors that are 35 and they've been studying medicine since they're 20, and they've been registered doctors for 10 years, and they're still on, in relatively junior positions, and they're learning from their superiors, and they say, "Oh man, my superior or whatever the right language is, he's been doing, cardiothoracic surgery for the last 20 years, and he's been such a great mentor to me." I'm like, this motherfucker has been a surgeon for 20 years, and you're learning for them, and you've been a doctor for 15 more or less, and you're still learning. Look, what does that say about the amount of learning that was still left for us to do? So I think to think that you're an expert after 3 years, 5 years, 10 years is just literally naive. Like it's just impossible, because there's always stuff to learn. There's always more experience to accumulate. And so while relatively speaking, we've been in it a long time, like relatively speaking, I went to the first IPF World. So like I've been around for as long as anybody in raw lifting, at least. Obviously, there's much more experienced people than me, but I just can't help but see like much more ahead of me to learn. And I think that's honestly going back to what I was saying before about why some doubt creeps into me about how I feel like delivering my service and like content creation and stuff, because I feel like, well, I still have so much more to learn. So I'm like, it's like this weird battle in my own head of like, I'm not ready to deliver material, even though it's ridiculous. And I know that people can still learn from me, even though I am, even there's much more I have to learn about myself and about lifting. It's just, if you compare powerlifting to other industries, other sports, other, whatever it might be, it's only logical to realize that, 10 years is just not a long time.
Yeah, and I was talking to Jason about this in the podcast we recorded yesterday about, if I were to start basketball coaching again, like I used to coach basketball 12 years ago. If I were to start again, I'd be starting from the bottom. Mm-hmm. It would take me probably 10 years to get like a rep team.
Absolutely, of course.
And then it would take me
it
probably 15 years on top of that to get like a pro team.
Yeah, powerlifting is one of the very few sports that you can call yourself a coach and 6 months later be coaching a top lifter in the country just by fortune or good luck.
Yeah, so what do you think that it actually means to be like a lifer?
I guess it depends on what you mean by lifer. Like, what do you mean?
Well, I'm curious what you would define it as. Like, how much time would you need to give it to consider yourself like no longer a baby in the sport?
20 years, maybe 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it has to be like a true career. Like, like I'm sure when you were in high school, for example, you might have had a teacher who'd been teaching at that school that you were at for 25 years. And people were like, wow, Mr. Smith's been teaching at the school for 25 years. It's like, yeah, that's a reasonable amount of time to maybe like award praise to someone. And that Mr. Smith is probably only 50 years old, still got another 15 years on his career. So it's like, how can you honestly call yourself a, lifer if you've only been doing it for 10? It's like, I've known people that have done their job for 10 years and then moved on to a completely different field. A teacher moved on to become a nurse, or a truck driver after 10 years decided to quit and became a accountant. Like, it happens all the time. And so I would not be surprised that if in 10 years from now, you and I just weren't in powerlifting coaching. Like, I'm not saying that's what I expect to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised because that's just like it's a very natural thing to happen. It's not uncommon. So I think like true lifer, 20, 25 years at least, for sure.
Do you think there will actually be people who are in powerlifting 20, 25 years, 30 years?
Yeah, for sure. There are people like that now. You think of people like Jennifer Thompson, Matt Gary, all these.
Yeah, true.
They've been around for that long. But I think of like, let's say someone's been an engineer at an engineering firm for 35 years, and then they retire, and it's like, wow, like they've been an engineer their whole life, and then they go on a podcast like, I was an engineer my entire career, and it's like, yeah, that's a career. Like I sometimes even still feel weird calling coaching a career because it's like, I don't know, I'm just a kid like writing programs on Google Sheets and like, watching videos on the internet. Like, I don't know, is that a career? Like, it feels a bit silly, but I know it's not. I know it's a lot more than that, but I still feel like I'm dabbling in many ways. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, I tell the parents when we go to summers activities that, they always ask me like, oh, you're the only dad here. Like, how are you? Do you have the day off? I'm like, I don't really have a real job. I would say that to all of them. I'm like, It's like I can kind of like pick and choose. And it's
quite
really
flexible, yeah.
It's really good that I have that luxury to do like the work that I want to do, be pretty good at it, earn enough money to like support my family, but then also have the time and flexibility to be a dad as well.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, like there are many, self-employed positions where people can afford themselves that type of flexibility, man. Like just go to any cafe on a Tuesday afternoon in Sydney at, 1 p.m. and it's like packed full of people. And you're like, don't you all people have jobs? It's a lot more common these days now.
Yeah, for sure.
But
a lot more working from home now since COVID, for sure.
And a lot more self-employed working from home. Not just working for companies, but just like doing your own thing, quote unquote side hustles and like whatnot. There's a lot more opportunity to like that. And so again, like using the side hustle example, there's so many coaches out there who are like you and I would consider like full-time coaches. It's like that's our full-time gig, like 24/7, not 24/7, but 40 hours a week. Maybe not you, maybe like a lot less. But in essence, full-time coaches. Whereas a lot of coaches, I would say, I don't know, what would you say? 50 to 80% of coaches out there have another job, whether it's a part-time or full-time job, and they coach between 5 and 10 clients like on the weekends. Like there aren't many people who full-time have a full roster of clients and that's their main income source.
I think it's probably more common now that PTs dabble in powerlifting coaching and that their like
it's
main
like hybrid,
job is like PT and Gen Pop.
Yeah, so it's like hybrid. They might have 5-10 online clients and then they coach and personal train.
That's kind of what I would say would be the majority now. Like, I don't know that many powerlifting coaches who have like a day job.
Right.
Do you?
I think it'd be surprisingly high, to be honest, personally, because a lot of this, like, you don't know them, but they're out there. You know, like, there's a lot of people that have a job and they have 5 clients. You don't know that guy because they don't make content. But
True.
They train at a local gym and they got a few clients. Like, someone at the gym was like, "Hey, can you coach me?" Yeah, sure, I'll coach you online. Like, those people aren't present online, but they exist. There's heaps of them. You know, like, there's just heaps and heaps of people that have like 5 to 10 clients. Like, I know heaps of them. You go to any local comp and you just see a guy lifting and a random person coaching him. Like, that random person probably has a day job and they coach this guy online, you know, remotely, or they train in their garage. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of like part-timers out there. There's obviously a lot of full-timers out there nowadays, but you know all the full-timers because all the full-timers have Instagram and, you know, you contact them and you're in those circles. But for every full-timer, there's probably 3 to 5 part-timers who don't even know their names because they
There you go.
train their clients out of their garage.
I don't really see that much. Hey, maybe it's just
I'm
different
sure
here
you'd have a
compared
lot
to-
of, think about like your client base. Like, you'd probably have a lot of clients who coach their friends and they'd have like 3 to 5 quote unquote clients who are their friends that they're at programs. So maybe they're getting you the money for. Like, that'd be a lot of like the actual coaching world nowadays.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I do.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you do.
I'm probably wrong. Yeah. I coach a bunch of bozos. That's why.
People who think they know shit.
Yeah. That's why I used to coach you, but you've moved on. You've
I
actually
make
cottoned
everyone
on.
feel like they don't know anything and they can't do anything without me, and then they can't help others.
Yeah. You've got to create
They're
pure
completely
dependence on you.
stuck with me.
Yeah. It's the perfect skill set for being a father. So you've nailed that.
Before we were chatting before you arrived about what you wanted to talk about, and the topic that you brought up was meet directing.
Yeah.
What is it that like makes you want to even talk about it? Like, what do you think is so cool about hosting comps?
I don't know. I just think it's like a very underappreciated aspect of powerlifting. Like, it's the kind of thing that people don't not consider, but they just don't like think about it as like an important set of skills. Like, people kind of fall into meet directing, you know, like how many content creators out there that are posting videos and content about how to run good meets. Like, that just doesn't exist because it's like not a thing you do, right? Whereas like coaching exists and stuff. And also, like, it's kind of a role that I've like fallen into, obviously, but I've also one that I've become a lot more passionate about. And now that I've got staff like doing most of the coaching at the gym, I'm a lot more able to put more of my energy and heart into running good meets. And, you know, we've got our comp in 2 months at TSF Team Champs, and man, that comp is going to pop off. And like, if it wasn't for budget, like, it would be even bigger and better. Like, the only thing holding me back right now is just money. And it's just like such a critical part of the powerlifting experience. Like, as a coach, what's one of the first things you say when you get a new coaching client who's like, "I'm interested in powerlifting"? You go, "Fuck, do a meet." So like, where are those meets? Who's doing those meets? Why is doing a meet so good? Like, have you ever had a client in your 6, 8, 10 years of coaching? Have you ever had amongst hundreds of clients do their first meet? It's like, that sucked. I don't want to do that again. Like, it's always good.
0 times.
Like, that just speaks to the volume of like how important that first meet experience is. And so, you know, at every meet, half the lifters are first timers. I would say half of them are first timers, assuming it's on a local meet, not on nationals or a team champs type of vibe. And so having a really good experience is so important to not only make that day as special as possible, but to want them to come back and do another one and to stay involved and to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think like people like us who have run comps before and run plenty of comps can really like determine what a good meet is and what isn't a good meet. And like, I think that you and I would go to a meet and be like, we would notice the little things, but I don't think the lifter would necessarily notice those really little things.
I don't think they would notice it consciously, but you do, right? Like, you know,
it all adds up. Like, little 1%ers like add up to your total experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So to confirm kind of what you're saying, right? Like, you've probably taken lifters to a meet where you're like, this meet sucks. Like, it's really unorganized.
But they don't notice.
Right. So you go like, this meet sucks. It's unorganized. I can't believe they don't even have a screen in the warm-up room. Like, you complain to yourself. And then after the meet, the guy's like, that was the best experience ever. I had so much fun. And you're like, okay, you got no clue. So yes, it's true. They don't notice in some sense, but you kind of like, you know, when you walk into like a really nice restaurant or you walk into a really nice, I don't know, environment and you're like, wow, this place feels really cool. Like, this place feels really nice. And then if someone was to say to you, like, why did you like the vibe of that restaurant? You're not going to be like, well, they had these fixtures and they had these furniture. You don't know why, but all of those things kind of subconsciously add up to this like accumulated experience. And so, of course, lifters aren't going to know if they're doing their first meet, they're not going to notice that there was, you know, a live camera displaying the platform in the warm-up room so coaches could see where the lifting was at. They're not going to notice there was 3 screens showing the lifting order so coaches could know where the lifting was at. They're not going to notice all the little details. But they will notice that things went smoothly. They had a good time. The coach wasn't stressed. Everything ran on time. Like, they got photos after the meet, for example. Like, they don't notice the individual bits, but as accumulated, they're like, wow, that was so good. Like, I remember, like, as you know, Alex, in our gym, we only have Alico bars and plates and racks. And so one of the first comps that we ever took a group of our members at the gym to was a gym where they didn't have Alico in the warm-up room. They just had bumper plates and, like, regular bars, and they had one Alico set on the platform. And one of my lifters said to me, it's like, why don't they have Alico stuff in the warm-up room? And I just laughed. And I tell that story all the time because it's like, this guy was so newbie that they didn't even know how luxurious they had it at our gym. Like, this person had never actually used a bar that wasn't Alico or Rogue. And now they're going to a gym, they're like, this bar's slipping in my hands. I'm like, yeah. And they were like, whoa, I never appreciated how good our stuff was. I'm like, yeah, thank you. And similarly, when you go to a meet that's not my own, if I can brag for a moment, and then people go like, oh, this meet was like late. Like, oh, that warm-up room was like really crowded. Or like, oh, I couldn't get my rack heights in on time because the racks in the warm-up room were like cages and not the actual combo racks. Like, all of those things, they notice it afterwards, you know? And whether or not that's important they notice the first time, hard to say. But I just think, like, as an accumulated experience, like, running really good meets is just like a critical foundation of what good powerlifting is.
Yeah, I think you nailed the point that I was going to bring up before is like, when you go to a meet for the first time and it's, you know, just a standard run-of-the-mill average meet, and then you go to...
I call it a no-frills meet.
Yeah, just like bare bones minimum. And then you go to a meet like at City Strength or at your gym, you notice the difference when you go back and you do an average meet. You're like, yeah, exactly right. Like, oh, those bars were slippery. Oh, like, why am I squatting on like a Olympic weightlifting platform? It's slippery and like stuff like that. You really do notice the differences. What are some of the things that you feel like make a good meet that are like underrated?
I think there's lots of little things. I think the key thing is the mindset of the meet director. The meet director has to understand that the most important thing is the lifter experience. Let's say you were the event organizer for a big sporting event. Let's say the Australian Open, which is relevant. It's on right now. I live in Melbourne. I went to the Australian Open last week. The most important thing at the Australian Open is the fan experience. Fans need to have a good time. They've got bars and they've got little table tennis tables outside, and they have little booths where you can take photos, and they have a little, you know, when you go to the Australian Open, nobody's going there to watch specific, well, obviously there are, but like most of the fans aren't watching specific people. Like, I didn't go to the Aussie Open thinking, I want to watch that guy. I was like, oh, I'll just go out for a good day out, and you have a good time and you have some drinks and you watch a few games and you do this. The whole experience is important, and making that experience fun for the fan is important. As a meet director, at least at the level that we're doing most of our comps, which is a local level, even national level, honestly, the only other time I feel like this would be relevant, the reverse is like a Sheffield, where the fan experience is really important. But for 99% of comps, the lifter experience is the most important thing. And so the lifter has to have everything go really smoothly for them. You need to minimize friction points. You need to minimize difficulty. You need to make everything as easy and smooth as possible. I'll give you an example. At 2015 Worlds in Finland, the warm-up room was on the second level at the back of a warehouse, and the lifting platform was at the front of the warehouse. And so you would do your last warm-up, and to walk from there to the actual platform was about 350 meters. Yeah, they had TV screens and stuff, so you could follow it all, but like, you had to walk 350 meters. I'm just estimating, maybe 300 meters to the platform. I know a similar thing happened in New Zealand, maybe 2016. I wasn't there for Oceanias. Like, that sucks, you know, or like I said before, the bars not matching the ones you can use in the platform. Or like, for example, in our meets, all the racks in the warm-up room are the same rack as the platform rack. So you can check your rack heights while you're warming up. You don't have to go to do a rack height check specifically at any point. You just do your warm-ups and you'll know your rack height. Like, you know, whereas if you have a rack that's a check rack or a rack height check rack that's next to the platform while lifting is going, and you got lifters lining up to check their rack height while the meet's going on, it's very distracting, both for the lifters and for the spectators. There's just so many elements to it. And I think it's like creating a really good experience has to be the foundation of how you think. And then from there, the ideas flow. Like, the ideas to me, they just flow because I'm like, how can we make the meet better as a lifter?
Yeah, the walking a mile from the warm-up room to the platform, it reminds me of one of the first meets I ever went to. Do you remember our friend Doug?
Of course.
Yeah. So I was coaching him at his first comp. I hadn't competed by this point, but I was just helping him out. and it
You
was
were handling.
I was coaching.
Well, you were clearly handling.
I actually didn't do shit. I had no idea what I was doing. It was at an RSL in Wollongong.
Right.
And it was like the platform was on a stage in this function room. Like, and then they had chairs set up. They had like a little seating area for the lifters when it was their group.
Mm-hmm.
The warm-up room was at the front of the RSL in like an actual gym. They had a gym there that was like
cool.
attached to the RSL. And it was probably about a 200-meter walk. But you had to walk through the RSL.
Oh,
so you're
yuck.
walking through people having lunch.
Lunch and
You're
stuff.
you're in your powerlifting gear and your
Love that.
sleeves. And you're like sweaty walking through an RSL, people like on the pokies and stuff, so you can get
Terrible.
And like I remember running back and forth because the meet was running late, and I was trying to time the warm ups, and I had to walk through the RSL, check the board, figure out where they were, figure out how much time was left, then walk all the way back to
Right.
the gym, give the message to Doug. Like such a shit show, complete shambles. You mentioned like trying to improve the meet with the experience, like things kind of pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had any ideas that didn't work? Like, can you remember anything that you were like, oh, I want to try this, and then it just like flopped?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, there has to be something. Nothing comes to mind immediately. Yeah, nothing comes to mind immediately. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, every idea has to go through a bit of a filtering process, and you got to kind of like run in your head and like write it down and see like how it would work. Also, a lot of ideas can be expensive. It's like things I've described before about like having extra screens and cameras and whatnot. It's like that's all expensive, and so like you've got to be sure like what you're doing is going to be worth it. Otherwise, like you're just wasting all this money. Yeah, I don't think I've got any like real concrete experiences of like completely flopped ideas. I think like over the years, as we've accumulated more material, so like I'm talking like, yeah, stuff. The meets have always gotten better. Like I've never had meets get worse, I suppose. Even while Bill and I were away and we weren't able to actually be there physically, I feel like the meets just got better anyway because the staff knew what they were doing better, the volunteers knew what they were doing better. Like everything just gets better. Yeah, don't have anything like really concrete that I can think of.
So you're just the perfect meet director.
I think I'm just like the perfect meet director. Well, I think that, yeah, like I said, the thing that holds me back right now is just like budget. Like I just wish that I had the funds to like make the meet better, make our meets better, which will come in time. Like we're growing and the meets are getting a higher quality. I think it's also important to like give lifters a competitive outlet, you know, like especially at the moment with the state of powerlifting in Australia and the like huge division that's been for the last few years. There's missing a lot of competitive opportunities, and people want those competitive opportunities. It doesn't have to be winning a nationals. And I mean, like I think even I was having this conversation with someone recently. Even the idea of winning a nationals is a bit diluted at the moment because there's so many different nationals. So like, yeah, you're the national champion. Sure, what does that even mean nowadays? It's very different to like 6-7 years ago. So giving lifters an opportunity for there to be competition. Like in our meet that we ran in December last year, we had a best debut award. So for anyone that's never done a sanctioned meet, who got the best dots, and you get like $100 for it. And we also had like a most improved award. So like whoever's got the biggest jump in dots. If you have done a meet before, who's had the biggest improvement? What's that? Your best dots previously was 350 and now you've done like 397. Cool, your dots improved by 47. You win a bit of prize money. And so I feel like those types of awards are awesome because they mean everybody can fight for them. You know, like if you're going into your meet and you're going to come fourth in your class, like you're just there focusing on yourself and just hitting your lifts. Whereas everybody now's got an opportunity. Like it doesn't matter who you are. You could potentially win something. Like you could win your weight class, you could win most improved, you could win best debut. Like giving lifters those opportunities to actually like lift with reason, like have a reason to fight. And it's not just, you're not just doing a mock meet on a Saturday at your local gym.
Yeah, I really like that idea because I remember when money meets started coming into play, 2015, 16 areas, Cameron and Liz would just come in and win the money
You'll
every
just win
single
best
time.
male every time, yeah.
And it wasn't really fair for that like sort of next level, even what you're talking about here, like even below that. Team champs is probably like a really cool topic to talk about. So 2017, it was like the team challenge.
End of year challenge was technically called. Yeah, and it was like a team component, yeah.
And there was a bit of a team component to it. I took a team. I actually competed.
Was that 2017? Yeah, you did, yeah.
It was 1 week after I competed in Singapore, and I came and competed and absolutely sucked. How did you go from that sort of end of year challenge with a bit of a team component to now where you're at now with this like giant team champs with this really complicated scoring system and like all this stuff? Can you talk through the journey of that?
So like 2017, it was just like a normal meet, and we're like, hey, how about we make an award where like if you compete with a group, you score points and you can win a prize. A lot of people don't realize this, and I wish it was much more of a big deal. But at IPF Worlds and regional events, they have team scoring. Like they have team scores. So, I mean, usually it's USA that wins. It used to be Russia all the time, but not anymore. And there's team scores. And so, if you win, you score 12 points. If you come second, it's 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I always found that really interesting. I was like, cool. Like I kept track of the scores, but no one else did. It was on the lift. It was on the score sheet. Like, when you go to goodlift.info/PHP, whatever it is, and then you click on the score sheet, at the bottom, if you scroll down, it says the team score and adds them up for you. Like nobody paid attention to that. Like I wish that at the banquet or the presentation, they'd say, and the winner of the best team or the best country is Team USA or Team France or Team Australia.
They did that in Uzbekistan.
They did?
Yeah, don't you remember? We all got trophies and shit.
No,
You
don't even remember. No.
Oh, you left early.
Oh, yeah, I didn't go to
missed
the banquet. Yeah, I didn't go to the banquet. I had to run home.
Yeah, Doug had the junior. We won second in the second junior team, and Doug had the trophy. And Jules had the best female junior team. Jules had the trophy.
Right, and so I just like wish that was a bigger deal. As I mentioned before, I used to play Aussie Rules football, and Aussie Rules football is literally a team-based sport, and the ultimate prize you can win in Aussie Rules as an individual is like the Brownlow medal, right? Like the best and fairest for the season, aka the best player of the whole year. And like a common little like hypothetical question people like to present is like, would you rather win a premiership as an individual, like as part of a winning team? Would you rather win the flag, or would you rather win a Brownlow? And I think the overwhelming answer that most people say is they would rather win the premiership, because like that's the point. Like winning the individual award is kind of nice. It's literally the most prestigious individual award you can win, but winning the joint award, like winning the Brownlow is much harder than winning the flag, like more people win the premiership than they win the Brownlow. One person gets a Brownlow every year and 22 people win the premiership. But people would rather win the flag, the premiership, the team award, because that's the point.
It means you're the last team standing at the end.
Right.
Like you beat everyone and then you win. Like you're the only team that wins.
You could also make the argument that winning the Brownlow is your last person. Like you're the only person to have like won this award. And so I just wish there was like a way that we could do that in powerlifting and say like, cool, like how do we make the team more important than the individual? At the same time, like when the Interview Challenge started in 2017 and then 2018, we also had we had the first team champs properly, and then 2019 as well. Coaching became much more of a prominent kind of job, kind of like we were talking about before. Like Team Hayes was like being founded. Chrissy had her own coaching business. I had my own coaching business. Burke had his own coaching business. More gyms were starting to pop up, like places like Adonis and in Sydney and City Strength, obviously. And so I kind of couldn't help but wonder, who's the best coach? Who coaches the best lifters? Who's got the best team? And so that kind of like just that curiosity kind of grew. I'm like, how do we make this more formalized? How can we make this a better system? Like, I'd love to see a huge team event where like, the biggest coaches in the world, you think of like a Joey Flex or think of like, whoever it might be, put together their best 4 lifters, and there's like 20 of them, 20 teams or whatever, 30 teams, and you put them all in the same meet. And they go, who's the best coach? They call it, it can be who's the best coach or whatever.
Coach's Cup.
Right, the Coach's Cup. That would be awesome.
That would be sick.
And so that's just grown every year. More and more people get interested in it. And I think like ultimately, powerlifting is a team sport. Like you look at a club like City Strength, people train together. You've got your mates there. You've got your training partners. You follow a similar program template, probably a similar training style, at least, if you've got the same coach. And so you kind of consider them your training partners. I always considered the people I train with my training partners and my teammates. And so I just felt like it was a great way to like almost formalize that. And yeah, it's just grown ever since. And now we've got the biggest one ever in 2 months' time. $4,500 prize money, 22 teams across 2 days. Yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. And it's going to be really high standard. Like, to give you an example of standard, in the 110 class, 110 class, 750 total, probably will finish 5th. Like, it's so high standard now. Whereas 750 in the 110 class 7 years ago, you'd win at nationals like that. Like, it's just so high standard. And I love that. Like, I love seeing how competitive clubs are getting about it now.
Yeah, I remember when I was sending teams to team champs, I'd get the team together. I'd like tell them that they were being selected,
right,
and they were like really happy about being selected. And then we'd have a little group chat and we'd keep each other updated. And like Mags was always like in charge of like making sure that everyone was doing their training and stuff. And like, it was like, it really felt like a team.
Yeah.
It really felt like we were, going into this together. And I'd never experienced anything like that in powerlifting, except for like, internationally where you're wearing the same uniform.
Right.
Which was obviously really awesome. What's like, What are the things to consider for you when you have these like out of the box ideas for powerlifting comps? Like another one that I can remember that you did was like you had an all women session where you had all female spotters, all female refs, all female lifters. Like that's really cool. I'd never seen that done before. Like how do you like, what goes through your head to come up with ideas like that?
I think it goes back to kind of almost what I was talking about with the content creation stuff. It's like, I don't want to just create content that's like the same shit as everyone else. Like, it's like, I want to be a little bit more unique. Like, how can you take what's already there and make it a little bit more unique, make it a little bit more cool, lean into your values, like whatever those values might be. You know, my values are in the social side of sports and, you know, team-driven attitudes and, you know, not praising an individual. So like kind of naturally, team kind of competitions came about. Similarly, you know, I love women in sport. I think women in sport is such a critical and important, integral thing. You know, women in sports are like very close to my heart, my family. And so naturally when we had, I think that meet that you're talking about, I think it was when I was going through the lifting roster and I realized we had more women than men competing. And that was like, well, we got so many women competing. That's crazy. And then I was like, well, maybe we make all the women in the morning. Maybe we make all the men in the afternoon. And then I don't think I actually specifically meant to make it all women like the way you described. But I think once I put a call out and I had all these like women referees and I was like, maybe I put all the women referees in the morning. Oh, do you know what would be great? Let's have women spotters and women on the tech table. So just kind of like that idea specifically kind of came out a little bit more naturally.
Were there any men coaches at the back like just ruining the whole thing?
I think there must have been, surely.
You.
Like, yeah, me. Yeah, me and my, you know, fat, hairy, sweaty ass at the back. But I think like the main thing is like, I guess like for me, meet directing is a creative outlet for me at the moment. You know, like, you know, I'm not making content like I used to and I'm not doing much other than that in a creative sense. So for me being a meet director is really creative. It's like, you know, it's like I'm finding it really fun. Like I'm sending all these emails and talking to all these different people about different ideas we can have. Like for example, the guy that runs our live stream is like talking to me about having like an interview wall. So we're gonna have like a wall with like the logos on it and stuff, and we're gonna interview coaches, kind of like halftime, quarter time. Like think of like, again, I use like, I've done this a number of times in this conversation, but I use other sports and industries as inspiration. You think of something like, AFL, soccer, cricket, tennis, whatever. Maybe not tennis actually, but like there's halftime interviews. You know, the media go into the change rooms and they interview the coach or a player like at halftime. I would love to interview coaches during the break and say like, if you got a minute, you know, so, you know, your client Alex just did these squats, only went 2 out of 3. How do you think that's going to affect your standings today? You know, like confront people and say those types of questions and say, hey, do you think you made a bad call going to 237.5 instead of maybe taking a more conservative 232.5? This is a bit of a side note. I'm just going to go on a mini rant. You can stop me if I'm going too long, but powerlifting is a kind of sport where it's very uplifting. You know, we're very supportive of each other and we love that. Like I love the uplifting nature of sports, but also professional sports, if you want powerlifting to be respected at professional sports, is very criticized. You know, like you're a big sports fan. You listen to podcasts where podcasters or broadcasters criticize coaches, criticize players and say, that's not good enough. That player is getting paid X amount. They should be able to hit those shots. They should be able to make that training session. They should be able to do X, Y, Z. And I'm not the person to start calling people out, but I think in a broadcast, for example, if a live stream, I think the live stream person shouldn't be saying like, oh, unfortunately they missed the second time. They'll get it next time. I would love for a live stream person, a broadcaster, to say, really bad execution there by that lifter. That's really disappointing. They're going to have a hard time to make that on the third attempt. You know, like be critical. That's what sports broadcasters do. They not abuse is not the right language, but they criticize refereeing. They say, in our sport, it's very much like, oh, you know, look good to me, but the referee's probably got a better view than I do. No, just say the referee made a mistake, just like you would in AFL. Like you hear it all the time in AFL broadcast, commentators saying like, you know, criticizing umpires, criticizing coaches, you know, I'm not saying that we should be criticizing everybody, but I think that's part of making the sport bigger is like creating those rivalries, creating this kind of like culture.
I completely agree. I remember Berkman and I did a podcast about nationals. We did like a recap. Mm-hmm. We said a few things that were critical and we got like backlash from it. We had people who were really upset that we spoke honestly about their performance. And if powerlifting ever wants to be considered like a proper sport and wants to ever have money in it and athletes be considered professional athletes, you have to be willing to take criticism like any other sport. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, if that's going to be your job, like people criticize, you know, they go on and write a Google review about your business if they're not happy with the way your comp is run. You go, oh, you know, this meet director, he didn't inform us when weigh-ins were, and we turned up late and then we missed the comp. Like, that's expected, and it almost should be expected that if we are expected to be taken seriously as professionals, as lifters, that we have to be able to like cop that.
Yeah, like and I think you are too, are all for inclusivity and welcoming and stuff, and being like, supporting beginners and someone new on the platform that's scoring 100 kilos for the first time and everybody's cheering. Absolutely. Love that. Good for you. Came dead last, didn't even know the result, didn't even know the podium scores. Who cares? You're there to do your first meet. That's all well and good. And we run those meets at TSF. We love those meets. We have those comps. But Team Champs isn't that.
And Nationals is different as well.
Isn't that.
So I'm going to be commentating a few sessions at APA Nationals in like 6-7 weeks. Whenever I'm not coaching and refereeing, I'll be doing the live stream. And I will 100% be critical of people. Like, coach makes a bad call. Like you made a bad call. And I like the idea of like the live interviewing, like grab a coach or grab a lifter and ask stuff. I think I might pitch that idea.
Well, the thing is, it's like...
Steal your idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope you do, because it's like, that just raises the standard for everybody. And yeah, I just draw a lot of inspiration from other sports. I pay attention to a lot of like what other people are doing. Not people, but yeah, bodies, organizations, businesses, and sports, and say like, what are they doing? How can a sport like, I don't know, how can a sport like cricket, for example, which I like cricket, but it is objectively not the most spectator-friendly sport, fill out a stadium with 30, 50, 100,000 people? Like, how? Because there has to be something in it. And so it's not like sports aren't popular inherently by the sport itself. It's got a lot more to do with the way it's presented, marketing, the storylines. Like, I think storylines is a big one that powerlifting misses a lot. The model that I use for storylines is UFC. Nobody does those storylines better than UFC, because UFC creates storylines and says, this this athlete has X record, they're going into this, the trash talk. Like, that's a storyline. Like, that's awesome, and I just don't have those skills, but I try to do that a little bit, by having these little preview interviews, key matchup type of things. Maybe not trash talk's not the right word, but like pit people against each other and say, cool, like at our comp, the 67.5 kilo weight class in women is going to be a really tight battle between these 4 lifters, and the results of those lifters are going to be really important. Who's going to win between those 4? Maybe during the meet, like let's say one of the lifters goes 3 out of 3 on squats. I'd love to interview 30 seconds and be like, how you feeling after hitting that 3rd squat? That's surely going to put you in a great position to take out the win today. And I want that lifter to be like gasping for air, like you see in other sports, saying, oh my God, I'm so glad to have hit that. That's 2.5 PB for me. I really think that's going to make a big one. And then they look over, and during the interview, you hear the screaming in the background, and they go, oh, I think that person just missed. Oh, but big relief washes over. That footage is like vital to making the sport spectator friendly. People say powerlifting's not spectator friendly. Honestly, soccer's not spectator friendly. Like, cricket's not spectator friendly. Like, but they make it spectator friendly by having storylines, great media, great interviews, like following the characters of the sports people are actually characters. They're like movie characters that you fan, So
this is something that Sheffield did really well last year.
Right.
Like, they made everyone turn up to the hotel like a week early. You have to do media every day.
Cool. I didn't know that.
And they would do 20 or 30 minutes with each lifter each day.
I was wondering how they got all those interviews. Yeah, they were awesome.
They would follow them around and ask them a few questions about their training, blah, blah, blah. And, then they'd piece these media pieces together and, pit people against each other and build all this hype. And the comp was fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. Something that I want to do with APA Nationals as well is like interview the national champion like straight after. Like, they've literally just come off, you've just won the 74 kilo class. Like, how are you feeling? Blah, blah, blah. I think that will be really good content as well.
I mean, like, to draw another example to another sport, like SPD doing all that media stuff is awesome. But in what other sport does the sporting body itself run its own media that pushes the sport forward? Like, think of like NRL. It's like the NRL have their own media, but like Channel 9 does the media.
Fox Sports, yeah.
Or whatever it is. Like, you almost need an external body to do it, because there's opportunity for them. Like, at the moment, powerlifting is so small and niche that like an external body doesn't have enough motivation or enough justification to do that. It has to almost all come from within. Similarly for my meet, it's like I have to do all the marketing. I wish there was another body that was like, oh, we want to do the marketing because we can make money from that, but like, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess how do you make that leap? Like,
that's the biggest barrier is like people would have to do this for free or small money initially.
At least initially, yeah.
Dude, I think that was a pretty good chat. I need to go home.
Oh, excellent.
So we're gonna have to cut it there.
Okay, well, excellent.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun. Good chat.